Hi everyone, this is Thaddeus Diamond, also known as Oddest Human Dad, the co-founder and artist and developer for Tangz. And today I'm going to show you how to use our minting machine. So we always start on the front page of wildtangz.com. We'll never ask you to go to any other website, so please do not get scammed. So you can see, up here at the top, we have the Tangz tools, and today we're going to be checking out the vending machine. So let's click on that. And what it's going to do is it's going to load for us the Cardano NFT vending machine page. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can read it. The UI below will configure and run a vending machine in your browser, running without connecting to any back-end Tangz servers. This web page is built on open source software components that are provided free of warranties, royalties, or any guarantees. Read the tooltips. You are responsible for validating all keys and transactions below. Now, what I mean by tooltips, if you scroll down to this, is over each of these, I have enabled a hover function. So I'm going to want you to read all of those. I'm going to stop today as we go through the demo, but you can take a look there. Okay, so we have some metadata files in JSON, but we want to upload them to Vend to our users. Now this is going to follow the standard format that we talk about in our architecture video, which will be coming shortly. But essentially, your users are going to send ADA to a vending machine address. The vending machine address will then monitor for new transactions and create, which is minting, NFTs to send back to the users. If it all sounds a little complicated, jump over to that architecture video once we have it up, or feel free to open a support ticket in our Discord. Okay, so let's imagine I'm an artist and I want to generate a new NFT policy and keys. I don't have an NFT policy. I don't have any way to do this yet. I'm going to click this button up here to the right. And we are going to get a message that says, remember, you must copy down the private key and Cardano slot you generate. Okay. So what that is going to do is generate a private key up here. Now don't worry, this private key should never be reused. It's generated randomly. But what we can do is we can use this to mint our collection, and we can even set an expiration for the collection. We're not going to do that here just for simplicity's sake, but if you wanted to, you could use our handy little date picker to pick a date. And then it'll let you know the slot that when it expires. Okay, so we'll tell the vending machine that we promised we saved our slot and key. And then we'll need to enter our credentials for BlockFrost. So BlockFrost is a web service, if we open it in a new tab, that is a gateway to the Cardano ecosystem. The easiest way to think about BlockFrost is that it's essentially Cardano node, but it runs on the BlockFrost servers. They make it so that you can read from the blockchain and submit to the blockchain without ever needing to run a Cardano node. And that's what this code uses. So once we get our key from here, which is a pretty easy process, you don't even need a password. They just use a magic link to your email. We're going to put that in right here. Now this is the part of the video I'm going to skip over because I'm going to connect my wallet and I'm going to get my BlockFrost credentials and input it. Okay, we're back. So to connect my wallet, which will enable these whole transactions to essentially go through, it's a little tricky why this is needed, but for now, it's easiest to think about it as just connecting the wallet to prove that you're able to be a part of the Cardano ecosystem. So I'm going to connect Nami here. It's what I use typically, and it's the one that I have right now on testnet. And we can see that once I do that, it'll successfully connect. If the website asks you, would you like to connect to wildtangz.com, read the permissions and hit accept. Okay, so now we've gone all the way down to our vending machine. So what is a vending machine? A vending machine is one address on the Cardano blockchain where users send money, and then a program looks for new money at that address and, in return, mints NFTs and sends them back to the user. So a lot of folks do this using the command line, but we want to make this as simple as possible. So let's imagine I'm a developer and I'm an artist and I've never used the command line. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click the Generate New Keys button. If you have an existing vending machine address you've set up and you want to use your private key, that's fine as well. But here we're just going to generate new keys. And we're going to get that same warning because it's really important that we copy these down. Remember, you must copy down the private key and address of the vending machine you generated. Now this is on testnet, so it's not going to be a huge issue, but nobody would want to use this. So what you'll see is that this popped up with our private key right here. It always will start with 5820, but it also popped up an address. It derived where we're going to need the users to send money. If you're doing an address drop on your website, this is the address that you're going to give to users. It's where they will send their ADA. And if you take a look at this tooltip I'm going to hover on here, it explains something very similar. Okay, so let's tell the program that we promised we saved the keys, like good little children. And then we're going to enter a profit vault. Now the profit vault is where the ADA that you collect is sent to after the transaction for minting occurs. If a user sends you, say, 10 ADA for an NFT, you will send a portion of that, somewhere around 8 ADA, to your profit vault, and then the rest will be returned to the user alongside the NFT. This is because NFTs can't go by themselves on the blockchain. They need to be attached to a small amount of ADA. And if you take a look here, it's very important to say that production mints use a hardware wallet. We happen to use Ledger for our Wild Tangz mint. We were running our open source Python code on a laptop and then later on a longer lived local server. And for production mints, we used the hardware wallet of a Ledger to store the profits. It's very important to use that because this is where all of your money is going to go. And if you have read anything about all the scams that have been going around and all the phishing attacks, hardware wallets are definitely highly recommended. So I'm going to use a test address. And this is where we're going to be able to look in the future for the profit. Now, the next part to fill out is the mint information. So first let's figure out how much we want to charge an ADA. Let's say for now we're doing a 10 ADA mint. Pretty simple. Next thing we have to tell the software is how many can be minted in a single transaction. So the maximum number of NFTs a user can purchase is whatever you determine, but note that we recommend at max somewhere around 20 to 30. The max for Wild Tangz was 30, but if you do too much, your transactions will start to fail because the metadata will be too large on the chain. So right here I'm going to set this to 5. You can just slide this over. And I'm going to tell the program to vend randomly. What this means is that when you upload your JSON files for metadata, it will pick random files. It won't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll pick something random from the bunch. And that's really important, especially if you have rarity incorporated into your NFT collection. All right, so over on this picture, we're going to upload the JSON metadata files. And for those of you who are wondering, JSON is just a file format. It's like a .txt, it's like a .png, it's like any of those. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and the files we upload are going to be in the format that you can see when you hover on the tooltip. You'll notice here that I have a lot of examples, happy to explain any of those, but I would also recommend you look up CIP0025. That's the Cardano Improvement Proposal 0025. That one was formally adopted, and it specifies how JSON files should be formatted for metadata for NFTs. Okay, so I'm going to click this little hover, and I'm going to see here, shout out to an artist I am working with on this who is doing this on testnet. And he has a several hundred Saucy Skulls collection. I encourage you to check him out, and I will provide links to his page in the YouTube video. Okay, so let's select all of these. We have 11 JSON files, and we'll open them. But it's really important to note that you are not done yet. You'll notice here it says awaiting upload. Because we know that people may mess around with metadata or try to get new files or see, hey, I thought I selected 12, but maybe there's 15. We need you to confirm that these are the correct metadata files by clicking Upload Metadata Files. This is a pretty quick process. You'll see here, finishes in a couple seconds. And what that's doing is that's reading in all of your files and making it available in the browser. Okay, so now we are all done and we are ready to vend. What the Start Vending button is going to do when I click it is it's going to start a process that runs in our browser. And the process running in your browser is on a loop that every so often checks for new money coming in to the vending machine address. So what's important to note here is you cannot close the tab. If you close the tab, you will close the vending machine. Now that shouldn't be a problem, but you will have to know which metadata files and how many you have already vended. And And it's really important that if you accidentally close, you don't just start it up and reload all of the metadata file. That will cause multiple NFTs to overwrite each other and dilute your token supply. So I'm going to click Start Vending. And as you can see, we're starting to get some logs down below. So this should go over time. And at the very end, I want you to download the log file. That's just going to download a text file to your computer. And all it's going to do is show you what exactly happened. But you can see the loop going every 5 seconds, and there are 11 mints remaining. Now, I set the loop here for every 5 seconds. I think we're going to be changing that to 15. Block Frost tends to get a bit overloaded. But just for the speed of the demo and to show you what's going on here, I think it's important to show you 5 seconds. So if you see 15 seconds, don't worry, that'll still be plenty fast. Okay, so what do we do now? Let's imagine we're an overzealous Saucy Skulls user. We're really into the death symbology. So we open up our Flint wallet and we say, they're live. It's time to send them 666 ADA. Now, remember that up top we set each one at 10 ADA, right up here, and we limited it to 5. So what's going to happen now, if I make that transaction, is while the user may hope they get 66 back, they're really only going to get 5 back. We've ensured that from this end, we're limiting. And the transaction was submitted. Now you can see from my holdings, I've already done some test runs. So I have a collection of 2 and a collection of 4. But if this is successful, it's going to add a collection of 5 into my wallet. So I'm going to wait here for a bit for the vending machine to start recognizing the blockchain and the transactions that are coming in. The delay here might be a couple minutes or so, so I will probably time-lapse this video. But what I want you to know is that what it's doing is essentially reading from Block Frost as fast as it can. The delay here is that there's consensus to get transactions approved on the Cardano blockchain, and so we're not going to necessarily see that transaction that was just sent along for a little bit. I would say that the minimum time you can expect here is a minute or 2 end-to-end. And then I would recommend that if you want to make it faster, you look into perhaps running a multi-signature mint, which might get things out a little bit faster because it doesn't require 2 transactions. It only requires 1. There's a great open source tool called Roundtable that I have not looked at yet, but that seems promising. Okay, so I've skipped ahead a couple minutes here, and you can see that the vending machine was going burr a little bit. And what happened was we just successfully processed an order. So there's a good news, which is there are 6 mints remaining since we started with 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. So that's promising. So I just want to scroll up in the logs to show you a little bit about what's going on, and we're going to zoom in here. So what first happened is that there are 11 mints remaining, and we look for new UTXOs in the vending machine. So the vending machine is going to say that they're attempting to mint 5, even though 66 were requested by the user. Now again, this goes to the importance of limiting it so that the users get their refunds and aren't upset, but that we don't congest the blockchain or cause transactions to fail with too much metadata. Okay, so you can see here all of this good stuff that is JSON. Those are the NFTs that are going to be minted. And if we scroll down here, we can see the transaction, which is going to have inputs from the UTXO they sent us, send back to the user. 616 ADA has changed because they requested 66 but only got 5. We're going to mint some assets for them, and I believe there was some naming overlap, so this won't be the case in your vending, but in ours it deduplicated, so it thinks it's only sending 3, but it really is sending 5. And then you can see here the 48 ADA that is going to our profit vault. So let's head over to Cardano Scan, and we can search on testnet for the profit vault address. And I've been testing around with this. Obviously, there are hundreds of tokens in it. But what you can see at the very top is a new in transaction. And you can see the Saucy Skulls have been minted back to the user, but we are also collecting 48 ADA in profit to this vault. And that, as a reminder, is the hardware, typically a ledger or a Trezos, that we'll use to store our profits. Okay, so going back to the transaction, you'll see we had about 256,000 Lovelace, or 0.25 ADA in fees. we sent this out with some mints. And then at the very end, after we signed this transaction, we have 6 mints remaining. So if we want to go back to Cardano scan, we can take a look here at the transaction. You'll see that it's showing us it's still in the confirmation phase. But it was executed about 3 minutes ago, and it included 3 token mints. Now again, this should be 5, but because I was sloppy with the metadata for this demo, and I apologize for that, but that's how it was. We only have 3 different tokens minted. So now, I'm going to come back here and stop vending. It says you want to shut down your vending machine, we'll say sure. I will download the log file. And if I'm your happy user that just submitted 666 ADA, I take a look at my logs, and I say, well, what do I have in my wallet? And as I take a look over there, you'll see this new collection of 3. And there are my saucy skulls. If you take a look at my transactions as well, it'll show me receiving back the 617 or so ADA as a rebate and all the refunds that I was owed. Thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy using this. Just a reminder, like, subscribe, stay active on our YouTube channel, and please, please, please always validate all of your transactions on testnet and make sure you are using hardware for production use cases.